Some years ago, I heard a beautiful and poignant story of a 6-year-old girl who had an older brother who developed paralysis when he was an infant. The story goes that she had helped put her brother, much heavier than her, into a wagon and led the wagon to the train tracks that went through town. When she heard the train in the distance, she struggled to lift her brother out of the wagon and to lift him in such a way that he could grasp hold of the rail of the fence that separated where their wagon was and where the train tracks were. And then as the train grew closer, she took her head and she forced it into the back of her brother to help hold him up straight. Because of his paralysis, he could not by himself. And then the train went by, and the brother exclaimed in glee as he watched the train. Once the train had passed, then the sister began to struggle to put her brother back into the wagon. As she was struggling to put her brother back into the wagon, someone who was watching all of this unfold said, "Well, my darling, you missed the train yourself. You worked so hard for your brother to see the train that you missed the train." To which she said, "I saw it before my brother became ill." This is a little girl that stands tall among many people throughout the world. She stands tall because she put her brother's needs before her own needs. She struggled to make sure that he could have something that would bring him delight, even if it meant in her efforts she would miss the very thing that caused her brother to laugh. She stands tall because she placed someone's needs before her own. It is a wonderful story about the power of people who look after other persons before they look after themselves. We see this story in the 2nd chapter of Philippians. There we have what is called the Christ hymn. And in the Christ hymn, we see that Jesus Christ is seated in royalty in heaven with all the privileges of that royal position. But then Jesus Christ looks down to the earth and he sees us. He sees us struggling under the weight of sin. He sees us struggling under the weight of ill choices that we have made and the consequences that follow. He sees that we are struggling simply to live. And Jesus Christ realized that sitting in his royal place in heaven was of no value if we were to struggle here on earth. And so Jesus Christ stepped out of heaven and was born as a baby into poverty so that Jesus Christ could walk among us for 33 years, loving us deeply, forgiving us of our sins, and teaching us how life works, so that if we follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, we experience a well-being that we have missed all before. Jesus Christ stands tall among so many people in this world because Jesus Christ did not consider his own needs. He considered the needs of the population of this world first and gave up his right to a royal position to love us deeply, to forgive us, and to teach us how life works so that we could be whole. We have experienced this as a staff in this congregation. People who stand tall above others in this world because they look after the needs of other people before their own. What I'm speaking to specifically is that on 2 occasions since this pandemic broke out a year ago, our church has had to be closed to in-person worship. Closed for the safety of the congregation and closed for the safety of the worshiping staff. Most recently we closed because the infection rate in Palm Beach County got so high that the elders of our church felt concerned for the well-being of our staff, particularly since most of our staff are not in line to receive the vaccination. We are not 65 or older. And so therefore, the elders of our church said, let's close down the church to in-person worship so that we can ensure the well-being of our staff. What the elders did is that they looked after someone else first before considering their own desire to be in church for worship. But it was not only the elders. They made the decision, but the staff of this church received countless phone calls and emails and letters from persons who said, though they would prefer to be here in person for worship, they are grateful for a staff that loves them and provides a worship experience for them week in and week out, and wanted us to know that they loved us and they were supporting the decision of the session to remain closed so that we would be safe. These are the people who walk so much taller than others in this world because they looked after someone else's need before they considered their own need. The church is stronger for these kind of people. The world is a better place for these kind of people. People who look after the needs of others before they consider their own desires and their own needs. Thank you.